Hello, my sweet summer children. I'm back with some juice to get you through the long night. So, your sweet summer sibling, 10OVO, emailed me a screenshot. And I've went to digging, and let's just say one of the most nail-biting questions might be answered. But I'm going to need your thoughts on this, so let me know down in the comments what you think of this theory I'm about to present. So 10OVO emailed me the screen grab, and he had questions for me, and I had questions when I saw it, so I came up with this theory that I'm about to present. So if you're watching Game of Thrones Season 5, Episode 8 on Amazon, there's like this sidebar thing to the left, and it's giving some info on the episode. Now, I never saw this before, and to be honest, I've seen a lot, and I never saw this. So what this says is, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss confirmed in the making of featurette that the White Walker leader is the Night's King, a legendary figure and former Night's Watch commander believed to be long dead. The Night's King previously appeared uncredited in Season 4 Oathkeeper, where HBO Viewer's Guide briefly referred to him as the Night's King, but this was quickly amended to remove the name. Basically, what this implies is that the Night's King and the Night King are the same person. One thing I can't confirm is who wrote it, Amazon or HBO. I don't know. But if you look down at the next paragraph, it's talking about Valyrian steel, and it's referencing the book, and it's accurate. So I don't know what to think about it. In the books, the Night's King is referred to as the 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. I'll tell you what the book says about him. The gathering gloom put Bran in minds of another of old Nan's stories, the tale of the Night's King. He had been the 13th man to lead the Night's Watch, she said, a warrior who knew no fear, and that was the fault in him, she would add, for all men must know fear. A woman was his downfall. A woman glimpsed from atop the wall, with skin as white as the moon and eyes like blue stars. Fearing nothing, he chased her and caught her and loved her, though her skin was cold as ice. And when he gave his seed to her, he gave his soul as well. He brought her back to the Night Fort and proclaimed her a queen, and himself her king, and with strange sorceries he bound his sworn brothers to his will. For 13 years they had ruled, Night's King and his corpse queen, till finally the Stark of Winterfell and Yorman of the Wildlings had joined to free the Watch from bondage. After his fall, when it was found he had been sacrificing to the others, all records of the Night's King had been destroyed, his very name forbidden. Some say he was a Bolton, old Nan would end. Some say a Magner out of Skagos. Some say Umber, Flint, or Nori. Some would have you think he was a Woodfoot, from them who ruled Bear Island before the Ironmen came. He never was. He was a Stark, the brother of the man who brought him down. She always pinched Bran on the nose then. He would never forget it. He was the Stark of Winterfell, and who can say? Mayhaps his name was Brandon. Mayhaps he slept in this very bed in this very room. No, Bran thought. But he walked in this castle where we'll sleep tonight. He did not like the notion very much at all. Night's King was only a man by the light of day, old Nan would always say. But the night was his rule. And it's getting dark. That's the legend of the 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, the Night's King. But the popular belief was that the show made a mistake for the description of the episode Oathkeeper because they did later delete it. But then it seemed they made the mistake again, which is weird. But anyway, the show character the Night King doesn't exist at all in the books. And the popular belief is that the Night King and the Night's King are not the same. Mistakes don't usually happen twice though. There's also this Google search that basically says he's the 13th Lord Commander. I mean, this probably really doesn't mean anything. I don't know who typed this. There's really no credits anywhere. But anyway, let's look further into the Night King and the Night's King. Let's look at some similarities and popular beliefs. One of the most popular beliefs about the Night King is that he's a Stark. We know the 13th Lord Commander was a Stark because Old Nan said so, but also A World of Ice and Fire says he was indeed the brother of Brandon Stark, Brandon the Breaker, King in the North. So Night King and Night's King are both Starks. Okay, so we have that established. Next, the legend of the Night King also says that with strange sorceries, he bound his brothers to his will. So the Night's King had the men of the Watch bound to his will, which is very similar to the Night King. With strange sorceries, he binds the dead to his will. So they are both Starks, and they both use strange sorcery to bind others to their will. It's important to remember that the Night's King is the 13th Lord Commander. It's also important to note that when we look at the Night King, when he takes Craster's son to turn him, there are exactly 12 people standing behind him. He is standing towards the front. He would make number 13. Also, the Night's King was a man of the Watch, so his clothing would have been black. In the books, the White Walkers have a unique camouflage armor, but in the show, the White Walkers wear black. Also, we should take a look at the Night King's sigil. While I was trying to figure out what the sigil looked like, I came across something interesting, and that's that the Night King's sigil resembles the skull of a crow. Redditor Mr. Bricks points this out in a Reddit post all the way back in 2015. And when you see them side by side, they really do look quite similar. I'll link his complete post below. He goes into further details and he does some Photoshop to the images that sells it even further. But if the basis of this sigil is a crow's skull, that would also give him a Night's Watch connection. The Night's Watchmen are known as crows.
You're wearing the wrong colour.
Once was a ranger.
In your hearts, all you crows want to fly free.
Now, where things get kind of iffy is when we go to the timeline. For me, the timeline needs to make sense. And it's kind of hard to make sense of the book timeline and the show timeline. They're completely different. So let's have a look at it. The show timeline definitely suggests 2 incidents of White Walkers in the timeline. On the Game of Thrones Season 6 Blu-ray, they have what's called history and lore videos included. These videos are made by HBO. I'm going to play a clip of one from Season 6 that refers to the White Walkers. I'm going to play the clip here and pause to explain each part so we are all on the same page.
But the first men would not be stopped. Fearing extinction, the children combined their powers for one last spell that would save their people and their land from the invaders. By themselves, the children were too few to resist the onslaught. But if they could turn men's numbers against them...
Turning men's numbers against them would suggest this is the point that they made the White Walkers initially, which would be before the pact between the first men and the children. So creating the White Walkers would definitely be a way to turn men's numbers against them. Every dead first man would become a number for the children of the forest as a white.
After hundreds of years and untold death and destruction, the wisest heads of the children and the first men finally prevailed. The children couldn't win this war, and the first men didn't want to win, fearing the cost of victory. Heroes and rulers on both sides met upon an isle in the god's eye to form the pact. The children gave up all the lands of Westeros, save for the deep forests, and the first men swore that they would no longer cut down the weirwoods. Thus ended the Dawn Age and began the Age of Heroes. Yet after the dawn must come the night. The great evil that the children unleashed in the war returned centuries later, and only an alliance between the children and men defeated it.
So it says the great evil the children unleashed returned. Not it came for the first time, but it returned.
Now it comes again, when the children are a shadow of what they were.
And now it says it's returned again. So prior to right now where we are in the show, right now that the White Walkers are in Westeros, before that, there seems to have been at least 2 events that involve the White Walker activity, at least in the show. So it would be irresponsible for me not to point out that the timeline for the books suggests only one night, but there is the legend of the Night's King at the Night Fort with his corpse queen in the book. But the book timeline is so confusing and it's completely different. So we have an interesting passage from Sam in the books that may suggest why the timeline is messed up. It may actually be messed up on purpose and isn't accurate at all and is put there to confuse everyone. The others, Sam licked his lips. They are mentioned in the annals, though not as often as I would have thought. The annals I've found and looked at, that is. There's more I haven't found, I know. Some of the older books are falling to pieces, the pages crumbling when I try and turn them, and the really old books, either they have crumbled all the way or they are buried somewhere that I haven't looked yet. Or, well, it could be that there's no such books and there never were. The oldest histories we have were written after the Andals came to Westeros. The first men only left us runes on rocks, so everything we think we know about the Age of Heroes and the Dawn Age and the Long Night comes from accounts that are set down by Septons thousands of years later. There are archmasters at the Citadel who question all of it. Those old histories are full of kings who reigned for hundreds of years and knights riding around 1,000 years before there were knights. You know the tales, Brandon the Builder, Simon Star Eyes, Night's King. We say that you're the 998th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, but the oldest list I've found shows 674 commanders, which suggests that it was written during long ago. John broke in. What about the others? So, the timeline in the books is questionable, and it's being questioned by the characters in the books, and it could be written like that to purposefully throw us off the scent. So we have the similarities that we've pointed out between the Night King and the Night's King. We also have the sigil in his clothing that points to him being a man of the Night's Watch. When we examine the story, the legend that Bran is told is a woman glimpsed from atop the wall with skin as white as the moon and eyes like pale stars. She definitely has the resemblance of a White Walker. It goes further to say that when he gave her his seed, he gave her his soul. So they were having White Walker sex. The whole soul thing could be a flight of fancy. It's dreary in the north. Or the Night's King and Queen could have had a son, a hybrid White Walker, and Night's King was just a title that was passed on. There's a passage in Bran's very first chapter, the first chapter that Martin ever put on the pages, that suggests that White Walkers were breeding with humans. The wildlings were cruel men, she said, slavers and slayers and thieves. They consorted with giants and ghouls, stole girl children in the dead of the night, and drank blood from polished horns. And their women lay with others in the long night to sire terrible half-human children. So we have that passage, and we have that option to think that Night's King is just a title, and this man we're seeing is the son of the very first White Walker or something like that. But more so, I think that there was the Long Night. The White Walkers were defeated in a sense. In the world of Ice and Fire, it says, thanks to the children, the first men of the Night's Watch band together and were able to fight and win the battle for Dawn. The last battle that broke the endless winter and sent the others fleeing to the icy north. So it doesn't say that they eradicated them. It says that they fled north. But according to the show timeline, there is still another event that happens after this that involves the White Walkers that isn't accounted for. The only other event in the book that resembles involvement of White Walkers involves a legend, and that's the legend of the Night's King. The man we are seeing on the show is very, very possibly the 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. I also want to account for the scene where we saw Leaf create the first White Walker. The man we know on the show as the Night King is being tied up and forced to be turned. He doesn't look like a willing participant at all. So I think the show is just kind of simplifying basically that these creatures as a whole were created by the children of the forest, and they're not going to go into detail about it. If we analyze this picture, the man does have on black. His only articles of clothing are black, and his shirt was probably black as well because he is gagged with black fabric. The children don't have regular clothes and fabric. Their clothing is made more of twigs and leaves in this picture, so they may simplify this whole thing and say, yep, he was a night's watchman and he's the night's king. But what do you guys think? I'm curious to know because the conflicting timelines are really confusing and they're really just irking my nerves. But I do not believe the Night King is Bran Stark at all. Just to throw that out there, I just don't believe that. But I do want to know what you guys think. I love hearing your opinions and your takes on the material. I love it. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks to everyone that supports me on Patreon. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like it, and click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell and join the Sweet Summer family. Okay, my sweet summer children, have a good day.